So, Kenny, the Manchester United revival continues, 4 wins in a row.
No clean sheet. Disaster.
What's the point of it? 65 minutes gone. Arsenal have just equalised. They have come flying out of the blocks in the second half. How did Manchester United stop that momentum and end up winning that game?
Yeah, it was interesting. I felt they had to do something before that, before the equalising Arsenal goal. You could see it coming. Nathan just getting swamped a little bit, particularly in central midfield. I thought McTominay and Eriksen were struggling a little bit. Arsenal getting plenty of overloads in there. They were pushing them back. They were pretty incessant in terms of their pressure. You felt as if substitutions had to come. They did. There were strange ones though. Ronaldo came on. And Rashford got flipped over to the right hand side. So immediately you're looking at it thinking, I'm not exactly sure of that substitution. But yeah, it was amazing really. It was amazing what transpired next. Manchester United getting penned in, like I said, but always you feel as if it got an opportunity in terms of counter-attack. Made a point about Arsenal before the game. They'd fancy their chances to pick Manchester United off because of the pace they have down the sides. Saka, Martinelli and Jesus to an extent. But I'm sure Manchester United probably would have felt the same, the pace of Rashford and Jadon Sancho in particular. Anthony was an interesting one. Was watching him in that kind of first half. You know, you're looking at him, and obviously I've seen him play for Ajax, but you know, you're looking at him up close, you're looking at his qualities, kind of technically very good, little schemer, low centre of gravity. Didn't strike me as somebody that with a huge kind of turn of pace in terms of going past somebody in those 1v1 situations. So that was interesting. And when you have players like that in the team, you need other players to complement them who do have the pace, Nathan, to get in behind and stretch teams in behind. So those players like Anthony can come on the inside and find those little pockets to play. And that's what United had today with the pace of Rashford in behind, down those central areas. And he was key, obviously, it goes without saying, for those second and third goals. The second goal, he shouldn't even have been there, really. The substitution made, he was flipped onto the right. Ronaldo was down the middle. But when Fernandes picked up that ball 5 yards inside his own half and looked up, it was Rashford who was in that central area. There was only one place Rashford wanted to go. And you have to put a little bit of blame to those Arsenal defenders. I talk about decision making at that level. I mean, Gabriel, Ben White even, and certainly Saliba are good athletes. Nathan, aren't they? They're quick. They're not particularly slow. But sometimes it's not just about out and out pace. It's about decision making. It's about dropping into the space early and not conceding that space and giving Marcus Rashford that space to run into. And that's what they did. Instead of backing off early and allowing Rashford to have the ball to his feet, they took a chance. They held that line for as high as they could. We see a lot of that in the modern game. They're not the only team that does it. But when the quality of the pass is of that level from Fernandes and the time of the run is as good as it was from Rashford at his pace, you can't deal with it. You get exposed. And that's what happened with that second goal. I felt that was the key. You really felt that's when the whole game kind of turned.
It was a real shame to see Rashford go off with potentially a hamstring injury towards the end. Like, 1 goal since January coming into this, that night against Liverpool. Do you see a transformation in him almost happening live on the pitch when he's scoring those goals?
It was like a metamorphosis, wasn't it? We could see it happen before our eyes almost. It's the first time I've seen. He's been in a dark place for a period of time. I'm not really too sure. Maybe one of those people closest to him know the reasons why, but he hasn't been himself, hasn't been enjoying his football. He's been the shadow of the player. Could have burst onto the scene a couple of years ago, and that's a shame. I don't think necessarily you have to be a Manchester United supporter to kind of be saddened by that. I think any follower of football, when you see the qualities which he has, a young player kind of bursting through, to kind of have a big downturn like that and to be really kind of struggling mentally as well, I think you really feel for him. And you only hope he can pull himself through. Didn't look as if that was going to be the case. He was linked with PSG, wasn't he, in the summer? Looked as if he was going to actually leave the country, get himself out of Manchester, get himself out of England to try and find himself and find a little bit of form. But the move didn't happen. He stayed at Old Trafford. And that performance today was absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, Manchester United supporters will be absolutely delirious leaving that stadium today. And like I said, the chit-chat on those trains and those buses and in the car parks and pubs around Old Trafford, it won't be about the impact that Anthony made in that Manchester United team. It'll be about the re-emergence of Marcus Rashford in a Manchester United jersey.
Casemiro, again, had to make do with a place on the bench. It was Scott McTominay and Christian Eriksen with Bruno Fernandes just in front. What's your sense of that Manchester United midfield and the quality it can have if Casemiro comes in? Like, the unselfishness of Christian Eriksen, some beautiful touches. Bruno Fernandes, the quality of the pass, though, again, sort of glittered in and out of the game at times. How do you like that lineup of Eriksen playing a little bit deeper?
It's going to be difficult to fit all those players in. I'm not a big fan of the partnership of McTominay and Eriksen in that central midfield. I think if those two are going to play, they need an extra player in there. I think they need to play with three in there. Casemiro's the obvious one. You'd imagine 60 million, the wages they're paying him. You know, at some point he's going to come in there. But he's a very particular type of player, Casemiro. He's not a great athlete, Nathan. Doesn't need up the ground. He likes to operate in that pocket, in that deep line midfield role, really in a midfield three with two players around them. But if you're going to play with that midfield three, you're only going to play with one central striker. You're not going to play with that 10. And now you're scratching your head looking at Fernandes and saying, how are we going to get this lad into the team? We can't get him into the team now in that preferred position as a 10. Do we flip him onto the flanks where he's not particularly as effective? Or maybe do we have to park him on the bench? So they're the kind of decisions which Ten Hag is going to have to wrestle with going forward. But it's good options to have.
You don't see, which I think most people see as the obvious, is that Casemiro just comes in for McTominay. It's a midfield three of Casemiro, Eriksen and Fernandes.
No, because I think that's a lightweight defensively. I think you're open. In a three, I like McTominay in there in terms of his physicality, his athleticism, his ability to get around the pitch. I don't think he's the greatest defender, but he gives you real pace and energy and kind of athleticism in that central area of the pitch. Casemiro in there, as good a defender as he is in terms of reading the game, very one-paced. Eriksen, an attack-minded player, a ball player, and Fernandes as well, who just wants to get ahead of the ball and get up the pitch. For me, even that three you've mentioned there doesn't have that natural balance. For me, it's like Casemiro, McTominay or Fred in that central area, and possibly Eriksen as well. So that's the interesting one. That's what probably Ten Hag's going to wrestle with going forward. But what he's not going to wrestle with after that performance today is whether Marcus Rashford starts in this team. Because of his versatility, Nathan, I think he could make an argument he can play off either flank. If he's looking at Sancho thinking not getting enough from him, very easily flip Marcus Rashford over to the left and possibly accommodate Cristiano Ronaldo at times in that central area if he feels as if he wants to get Ronaldo's quality on the pitch.
No clean sheet, but what about them defensively? You look across the back forward, Deleuze seems to be a manager's favourite. Now, Malacia got roasted earlier on by Saka, but then stuck with it and seemed to get into the ascendancy. And the centre-back partnership of Varane and Martinez. Where are you on Martinez now, having seen him for 3-4 games?
Jordy's out. I've got to be honest with you. Had a rocky start. He got a huge amount of headlines the past couple of games in terms of he's really come to the fore and has shown his personality, and he looks now comfortable in Manchester United jersey. And certainly his performances have been better, but you can see the kind of limitations which he has. I think he's got to slow himself down a little bit. Looks very forward up for me going onto the pitch, too much so for me. I think as a central defender, ideally, you need a measure of calmness to you when you're on the pitch. I think that helps you in terms of your decision making. He's got to realise very quickly he can't go and fight every centre forward he comes up against. Physically, he hasn't got the power to do it. So he needs to smarten up a little bit for me. He's got some good qualities, don't get me wrong. He's a good competitor. He's swift enough, nimble enough over the ground. I think he's good quality on the ball. When he looks up, he looks to play forward and breaks the lines. But I think he's just got to mature. He's not there yet, but I think he needs to get better. Otherwise, those little limitations, frailties which he has at the moment are going to get exposed. But I think it helps when you've mentioned that Dalot and Malacia in those full-back positions, I think have defended well. I think they've narrowed up to their centre halves at times. They've given them some decent cover, and it looks like a reasonably solid defensive line, Nathan, doesn't it? How often have we said that? Again, Manchester United the past year or so, it hasn't happened too often. So I think there's a partnership in the making there, certainly between Martinez and Varane, but it's all about the defensive unit for me. And Dalot is probably playing his best, is having his best spell in the Manchester United jersey. And Malacia has shown enough to show that, let's stick with him. Had a difficult time against Saka today, but he wouldn't be alone in that respect. Saka's as good as they come in that area of the pitch, but he stuck at it, like you said, showed a bit of character, didn't go under, and finished the game reasonably strong. So that's good to see. I think shows he has a little bit of personality.
If I know you, Kenny, you'll be home after this on the couch scrolling through social media all evening to see what everyone's reaction is. Everyone will be hammering Arsenal that this is typical Arsenal. 5 wins in a row to start the season. First real test.
That's not typical Arsenal, is it? 5 wins in a row.
All the momentum, and they blow it.
Yeah. Now, you know, is alongside me, that's not the case, having watched the game. They blew the game today at key moments. Like I said, individual decision-making cost them. But I think the overall play was good, particularly in possession when they found their rhythm and they found their groove. Probably 20 minutes before halftime and 20 minutes after halftime, Nathan, we saw their quality, that front four, some of the link-up play between them. They look very comfortable out of guard in the little pockets, linking up with Saka. It's a funny when he plays as a 10 out in guard, but I saw it last year with him. He really leans towards that right-hand side, that inside right pocket. He wants to get close to Saka. He wants to get within 10, 15 yards with him. He's the one he knows he can feed and he can work with little 1-2s and get Jesus into the game. So that front four is probably as good as there is in the Premiership at the moment. Just need to tighten things up in behind.
And when you say in behind, do you mean the two in the middle of midfield?
Yeah,
I think that's where Arsenal fans question with, as much as Xhaka is playing a slightly different role and might have started the season well.
That's not their strongest two on the pitch today. Well, I certainly wouldn't argue. Partey for me and possibly Zinchenko. Although I was reasonably impressed with Lokonga today. I thought he was very competent in terms of what he did. I think there's more to come from him. He's a young player. But for me, Kieran Tierney comes back in the team at his best, Nathan. He strengthens them at that left-back area of the pitch. That releases Zinchenko for me into that central area of the pitch where I think he's at his best, because I think Zinchenko has his weaknesses at left back, particularly in 1v1 situations. You saw him today. He wants to go in and play central midfield. You know, he wants to drift into those central areas. That's where he's most comfortable. That's where he feels as if he can best influence the game, and he doesn't get as exposed in there in that central midfield area. Nathan, he's got players behind him, he's got players around him.
Yeah.
But in that left back position, big switch of play, you're 1v1 against Bukayo Saka and Mo Salah, you know you're in trouble, and I think he knows that. So I think there's more to come from this Arsenal team. There's better players who can come into the starting 11 and actually strengthen that team.
We could spend the next 2 hours talking about refereeing decisions and VAR, and there was a controversial one in this game, and there's reviews going on into a couple of the matches yesterday where I think VAR are already accepting that they got it wrong. It's all got ridiculously messy.
But it's always been ridiculously messy, and guess what? Get ready. It's always going to be ridiculously messy. So suck it up for those people who wanted VAR in and continue to want it in. Suck it up. That's all I can say. It's not going to go away. There's no solution to this. It is what it is. You're going to have to deal with it. Personally, I didn't want, where my feelings on it. I didn't want VAR coming in, and I'd have it out in a split second, in a heartbeat. I'd get rid of it. No big problem with the decision today. I didn't think it was a free kick. I think the Arsenal goal should have stood. But I can understand there was a bit of contact there. The referee decided to change his mind. I wouldn't have. If the VAR wasn't there in that situation, maybe the referee would allow play to go. We'd all be arguing whether it was a free kick, whether it was not. But I can take that. I can take individual error from the referee. I'll accept it. That's part and parcel of the game for me. That was never a problem. It's interesting situations. Yesterday you were talking about, again, interpretation. People talk about, well, VAR has to get better. VAR has to improve. But VAR is a fifth official. VAR is a human being. So you might as well be going over and asking the fourth official. It's a fifth official. It's a human being we're asking now to make these judgment calls. So don't be surprised if we're going to be having these arguments, and people are going to have to disagree about what's a penalty, what isn't, what's a sending off, and what isn't. It's all about human judgment.
But also, you're saying with these judgment calls, it's meant to be a clear and obvious error. What we're having.
But what is clear? But we can have an argument about what's clear and obvious, Nathan. That argument goes round in circles. Was that today a
clear and obvious error when the referee was standing 5 yards
away? Well, the referee will tell you, because he went over and saw and thought, I've made a clear and obvious error. I'm saying I didn't think it was a clear and obvious error. I'm saying I didn't think it was a free kick. So again, the clear and obvious error argument, it's never going to be resolved, because again, we'll all have our interpretation, what we perceive to be a clear and obvious error, if you understand what I'm saying. So for example, the goal, the West Ham goal yesterday, seems to be a general consensus. Disgrace. VAR has to go. This is the lowest of the low with VAR. How the hell could that be overturned in a free kick given to Chelsea? I thought it was a free kick.
What?
I thought it was
he never touches him.
I thought when he clattered him in the shoulder, and he done it deliberately. He left his left leg there. He jumped over Mendy and deliberately trailed his leg to make contact with the Chelsea goalkeeper. That's a free kick. Now, that's how I see it. Doesn't mean I'm right, but that's how I see. That was clear to me. It was clear free kick. He made contact with Mendy, so Mendy couldn't get up quickly and actually try and make the save. But everybody else saw it differently. And that might mean everybody else is right. It may mean I'm right and everybody else is wrong. But this is the judgment that I'm talking about, and it's never going to be resolved. Do you enjoy talking about it?
No.
You enjoy talking about these every week?
I don't think anybody enjoys the fact when a goal scores, all you're thinking is that thing that happened 30 seconds ago.
This is what I'm talking about. So you've got to, for me, it's simple, and it's always been simple. Are we getting more decisions right than wrong with VAR? Absolutely. They throw the percentage at 8%, 90%, 90%, whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. Is the introduction of VAR bettering the game, making it a better spectacle for the supporters and the public to watch? For me, the answer is a big, fat no. And that's the biggest argument for me. That's it. That's my argument right there. I don't care for getting more decisions right than wrong. That doesn't bother me. Human error has always been part of the game. Suck it up, get on with it. That's life. But is the game better? Are we enjoying it more? Absolutely not. That's spontaneity, celebrating a goal. Whoa, lads, hold it. Have to have a look at the VAR. Just put down a pause. Let's press the pause button. Let's have a look at it for 2 minutes. Actually, it is a goal. Pick up where you left it. Go and celebrate again. That's spontaneity. Yeah. Let's just replicate that again and celebrate the goal again. I absolutely cringe when I'm watching the football now. That's an absolute shame. And I say that I'm absolutely hating at the moment in terms of the impact VAR is having on the game. It's an absolute shame. People say, well, we can't go back. Well, we can't go back. And I say, well, why not?
Yeah.
Well, we can't, can we? It's in. But that's it. That's the argument. It's in. That's the strongest argument I've heard, Nathan. It's in. We can't go back.
Not there's been a massive improvement or less controversy. Like, we have more controversy than ever, it feels like. Because even when a decision is made, we're saying, why didn't they go to VAR? Why didn't VAR intervene?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't they put the flag up early? You know, why didn't they put the flag? Stephen Gerrard, the Aston Villa game yesterday.
Coutinho, yeah.
Yeah, but people are continually arguing, why didn't they put the flag? You can see it's offside.
Well, that's the
it's clearly offside.
That's the consistency where you have the situation with, say, Liverpool in particular, where somebody's 5 yards offside and they continue until the passage of play finishes.
But what if somebody's 4 yards offside? What about if they're 1 yard offside? What about if they're 18 inches offside?
What if they're onside, yesterday?
Where's the line? Where are we going to put the flag? When are we going to keep it down? Again, circles, Nathan. We're going down absolute circles with this. I'm guessing the TV companies love this. The people who plough money into the game, the huge amount of money Sky beats, I'm guessing they're absolutely love it. Absolute tech nerds, like, can't get enough of it. They'll never vote it out. But I tell you what, I think if you canvass the vote amongst their football and supporters, and actually I think more and more now, actually football people, players and managers alike, I think you'd find the scales adjusted now are weighed in favour of kicking this bloody thing into touch.
Takeaways on the weekend, both Liverpool and Manchester City end up dropping points yesterday. The common line you keep hearing about Liverpool is that something's just not right.
Well, yeah. Well, I've got my own opinion in terms of what's right. It's interesting. I have heard that a little bit, but nobody's expanded on it. So for me, it's relatively simple. You make the argument Darwin Núñez coming in, time to sell. That's okay. That's fine. You can make the argument in terms of a bit lapse of concentration defensively. Van Dijk's a bit off. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, but that can come back. Alexander-Arnold making mistakes. That's always going to be the case. It's always going to happen. Nothing's going to change there. But the big fundamental for me, and it's been there for some time, we probably spoke about it even last year, Liverpool's central midfield. The dynamic has changed in there, and it's shifted. It's like those Teutonic plates have just like shifted about 10 degrees. And they've shifted because Jordan Henderson isn't the player that he was 18 years ago. And he can't impact the game as he did in terms of that physical output which he had. Nathan leading the charge in there, that kind of press, counter press, physicality, energy levels which he had in there. Him and Wijnaldum, you remember those two advanced midfield positions. Fabinho in behind, absolutely perfect. Out-muscled, outran, out-pressed, ran over teams, Manchester City included. That's why Manchester City have really struggled with them during that period. But it's shifted. And it's shifted because Jordan Henderson's physical levels have dropped off. And now we're looking at Liverpool midfield with some technically gifted players. Harvey Elliott, wonderful player. Thiago, when he comes in, technically very good. Carvalho, who's come in, interesting player as well for me. Looks like a goal scorer. Physically, he's not going to impose himself too much. And Fabinho now is not looking the player that he is in it because he's getting more exposed. He hasn't got that protection, hasn't got that security blanket around him. He's a very good operator, Fabinho, really good reader of the game, very similar to Casemiro, but he's one-paced. And he can't be running 20 yards to his left and 20 yards to his right, putting out fires. So now the whole dynamic has changed. So for me, Liverpool in transition in that central midfield. So are Liverpool going to be a team now? Are they going to incorporate the likes of Harvey Elliott, Thiago and Carvalho into that central midfield now and go for and run with that? Because that would be interesting, because that's an absolutely sea change in how Liverpool play. And the big question is, ultimately, are they going to be the better team because of it? I don't think they will.
Because at the moment they seem in a sort of limbo of, as you say, that midfield at their best of Wijnaldum, Henderson and Fabinho. Like, counter-attacks didn't happen. So Liverpool didn't have to defend because they won every duel. They recycled the ball so quickly.
Couldn't get at them. You couldn't get at that back four for the majority of the game.
Now, if you're looking for more technically skillful, creative players, like Carvalho or Elliott could almost play as one of the front three as much as one of the midfielders. Do you need a shift all over if suddenly they're going to become a possession-based team? Like, is that what?
This is for me is the interesting conversation. So it looks like to me Liverpool potentially now are going to take Manchester City on at their game. Now they're looking to incorporate those highly technically gifted ball-playing number 8s. I'm talking about the two positions in advance of Fabinho, as we've seen De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan excel in that area of the pitch. Are you going to take Manchester City on in that area of the pitch? I don't think so. I think Liverpool had it right before it, taking the opposite approach, like physically out-muscled, suffocate them, physically bully them, press them, don't let them breathe, don't let De Bruyne and Gundogan get their heads up and be able to play those passes in behind the Liverpool, in behind Alexander-Arnold. They can't, because Liverpool are too quick, too aggressive in terms of that press. They don't have that now. Have they got better technical players? Yes. But are they able to get after teams as they did before? No. So now opposition teams are getting more possession of the ball in those central midfield areas, more time to get their heads up, make more passes, and maybe that Liverpool back four is being tested a bit more than it was previously because of it. So that's, for me, I say a drop-off. I think it is a drop-off in terms of Liverpool's effectiveness, how they're going to be. I don't think Liverpool can compete with Manchester City this year because of that. Now, ultimately, over time, will they improve? And will those players in that central midfield area take them in a different direction? Will they be able to challenge again, playing, for me, slightly different type of football? Maybe so. But what we know is the Liverpool which existed previously got underneath the skins of Manchester City and pushed them all the way year in, year out. And at times, for me, actually had the edge on that Manchester City team, particularly head-to-head. I don't think Guardiola looks at this Liverpool team with the likes of Thiago, Elliott and young Carvalho in that central midfield. I think he'd look at that Liverpool team and think, yeah, do you know what? I fancy us now. I'll take any team on in a game of football.
Great stuff as always. We'll have Kenny's VAR watch every week from now on. I look forward to it.
No, please no.